How much can you manipulate others to work for you and make you successful? Kinji is doing a great job at it, but he would need help replicating his success in a new world. One of the most successful NEETs in the world, Kinji suddenly finds himself in Amuria, a place different from Earth. He now has to work in a dungeon company, Raizaha Mining Corporation, where Belza Shubaha admonishes the workers to sacrifice themselves to help the company win against competitors. They were all tasked with mining demonite from the dungeons. The workers were so dedicated to their jobs in a way that Kinji couldn't relate. This was something that he mocked back on Earth. Now, he was one of the workers. When the results of their labor came forward, Kinji was found wanting in his team. At first, he wasn't ready to listen to the reports, but he didn't have a choice. He only achieved 15% of his quota, which affected the whole group's evaluation. The other members of the team were not pleased with him. While grumbling outside about the hard work and meager pay, Kinji's last coin falls from his hand and rolls into a corner. Right there, Kinji notices something strange. He invites a co-worker, Wanibi, from his team and informs him that he has an idea to change their lives forever. Wanibe was a bit reluctant initially because he knew how infamous Kinji was. Besides the vast sum Kinji was owing, he always got into trouble for not working as he should. However, Kinji convinced him to join him on the voyage. This was where Kinji's act of deception began. After getting Wanibi to join him, the next thing was for him to have a chat with the authorities. Kinji and Wanibi get permission from the goblin to go on a prospecting tour. This meant they would go further into the dungeon to mine demonite. The dungeon was a place that every other person was scared of. A more significant percentage of those who went in never came back alive. Kinji was aware of this and still decided to go there. According to him, he has a plan. The goblin boss was pleased that Kinji was ready to risk his life for the company, so he did not hesitate to grant the request. Going into the dungeon meant more demonites. The pair goes through a secret portal into the 3rd floor. On getting there, they found a lot of demonite and began mining. It all seemed easy, like the demonites were lying there. How come many people stayed away from the dungeon? After gathering enough demonite, they decided to close for the day. On their way out, the unexpected happened. A dragon attacked Kinji and Wanibi from behind and desired to eat them. Here again, we witness Kinji's ability to sweet-talk anyone. Kinji and Wanibi escaped from the dragon and hid themselves. Kinji then brought up the most absurd idea ever. He told Wanibi to act as a bait without telling him the plan. As expected, Wanibi turned down the offer. But it was too late. Kinji pushed him outside. The dragon grabs Wanibi and was about to swallow him when Kinji cried out. Kinji was able to strike a deal with the dragon, whose name is Rim. With the deal, Rim would protect them while they mine, and they would pay the dragon back by offering her food. Whoever has heard of a human forming a deal with a dragon? It was new. The dragon, Rim, transforms into a small girl and agrees. She was just as shocked as you might be right now because no one has ever had the boldness to make such an offer in the past. Later, the goblin boss praises Kinji for outstanding teamwork, and their group expands significantly. However, Kinji faces frustration because instead of earning money, he's losing it due to Rim's insatiable appetite, spending all his earnings on feeding her. Sadly, this was one part of the plan he only thought of correctly after implementing. While mining, Wanabe and Kinji stumble upon an area filled with magical items. Rim reveals it as the designated toilet spot for her and the others, making Kinji and Wanabe realize these items are things she couldn't digest. Kinji tosses one of the items, accidentally hitting Wanabe. This triggers Rim to demand more food, leading Wanabe to stand up and angrily rip off his tail, as Wanabe acts strangely and seeks the next command. Rim senses a peculiar magical power and suspects Wanibi might be hypnotized. Kinji discovers that the magical staff possesses hypnotic abilities and decides to use them on his co-workers, compelling them to join him in their work. Kinji's audacity and manipulative mindset are second to none. A month later, Kinji's co-workers feel completely drained without understanding why. Kinji notices the staff needs to be more effective. Wanibi expresses a wish to stop and apologize, fearing eventual consequences. However, Kinji was not ready to let go early. Kinji emphasized the need to keep making money, warning that stopping would reveal the secret passage to others. Suddenly, the staff cracks and breaks, undoing the brainwashing. As the spell wears off, Kinji arrogantly boasts about continuing to use his loyal co-workers to achieve greater heights, ordering them to work for him. His co-workers, angered by his attitude, turn the tables and beat him up. Lying on the ground, Kinji pleads with Rim, mentioning his current state. However, Rim reminds him of his statement that if he doesn't feed her, she can eat him, and proceeds to bite him. Kinji's colleagues are unhappy about what occurred and are treating him coldly. Kinji is frustrated that they're not even trying to conceal their resentment, even when he has been the reason for the team's success over the last 2 months. Kinji overhears concerned conversations between Wanabe and the Goblin boss, with the boss confirming that the upper management has taken notice of their accomplishments. Shortly after, Kinji receives a letter notifying him and Wanabe about their transfer to Exploration Division Group 8. The Raizaha Mining Corporation, based in Torsten, boasts a capital of 1.3 billion gold and employs over 30,000 individuals. Primarily focused on the industrialization of demonite, its core activities encompass logistics, sales, research, and development, and the exploration and mining of dungeons. Exploration is the cornerstone of Raizaha Mining Corporation's revenue, divided into specialized divisions. The Exploration Division comprises various groups, such as Group 3, responsible for hunting giant monsters to safeguard and expand mining areas. Meanwhile, Group 8 supports frontline fighters by clearing mob monsters, replenishing treasure chests with support items, and handling miscellaneous tasks. On their inaugural mission with Group 8, Kinji and Wanabe encounter difficulties battling slime monsters. Wanabe, feeling despondent, expresses concerns about working until his death without leaving a lasting memory. In contrast, Kinji asserts his unwavering determination to live life to its fullest before contemplating the end. Wanabe and Kinji always had contrasting views on most issues. The situation takes a turn when Wanabe opens a chest, unknowingly revealing it as a mimic that ensnares him with its tentacles. Frustrated while searching for usable items, Kinji vents his annoyance by throwing everything into the mimic. Post-mission, Kinji faces reprimands for choosing a supposedly safe route. But due to Wanabe's incapacitation, he's now tasked with covering for him. The cost of the items tossed into the mimic will be deducted from Kinji's payment, leaving him irritated but powerless to change the situation. Upon returning home, Kinji picks up discarded food from a restaurant and offers it to Rim. Though initially displeased, Rim consumes all of it. Later, she catches a whiff of a pleasant aroma and discovers marbled meat that Kinji bought at a meager price, deemed as trash in their world. Despite Kinji's attempt to dissuade her, Rim can't resist indulging in the unexpected find. Before he could say jack, his precious meal had been devoured. Kinji heads to work the following day and gets assigned to restock chests. While on the job, he encounters an elite from Group 3, desperately fleeing from monsters. The elite asks Kinji to distract the creatures, providing an opportunity for a safe escape. Suddenly, dungeon ants emerge, and a joint escape begins. Spotting a river, Kinji takes a daring leap, pulling the adventurer along. Returning to the storehouse, Kinji attempts to reach out to the management. However, the storehouse manager is skeptical, stating that dungeon ants, powerful monsters from lower floors, shouldn't invade upper levels. Despite Kinji's plea, he's told they can't allocate resources without verification. As the ants assault the storehouse, Kinji begins searching for a solution, eventually spotting a small box. The ants ransack the entire storehouse, leaving Kinji and the others helpless. Unbeknownst to them, Kinji discovers a transformation drug inside the small box, using an ant leg to change them into ants. The manager seals off the exit to the upper floors, trapping Kinji. Faced with the impending danger once the drug wears off, they grapple with the question of what to do next. It was almost impossible for Kinji to be out of ideas. Observing an ant struggling to move forward and feeling abandoned, Kinji discovers an unexpected ability to comprehend and communicate. Approaching the distressed ant, he inquires about its well-being and questions whether abandonment is expected. Introducing himself as a traveling ant, offering advice and support to worker ants, Kinji shares a fabricated story of a selfish queen leading his colony to collapse. Now, he claims to wander, aiding other ant colonies in need. Noticing the overworked ant, Kinji inquires about its rest days, only to be surprised by the response of none. Assuming generous rewards compensate for the relentless work, Kinji is shocked to learn no such incentives exist. He attempts to persuade the ant, emphasizing the importance of standing up against exploitation and advocating for rights. Kinji continues his mission by engaging with other ants, searching for those discontented with their demanding work schedules. Bringing together a sizable group of ants, Kinji engages in conversations, encouraging them to voice their resistance against the queen's oppressive work conditions. Building trust effortlessly, Kinji gains widespread support. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the queen receives news of a mere 30% progress on Operation Surface Invasion, expressing dissatisfaction with the sluggish pace. The queen remarks on the opportunity to expand their reign with the absence of the glutton demon, expressing a desire to push workers for increased productivity. Surrounded by protesting ants and Kinji, whose transformation drug has worn off, she questions the presence of a human among her ants. Kinji asserts they are comrades united in a common cause, and he deems her actions worse than anticipated. Unable to comprehend ant communication, Kinji senses the ants' reluctance to follow the queen due to her lack of leadership qualities. Dismissing the need for talent, the queen relies on raw power, growing in size and attacking Kinji. However, Rim intervenes, blocking the attack and instilling fear in the queen upon recognition. Now chasing the ants, Rim is persuaded by Kinji with an offering of meat to spare them. Grateful for being saved, the ants and the queen are charmed by Kinji, bowing to him in gratitude. The alliance with Rim is eventually paying off. Who would have thought that dungeon ants would bow to Kinji? Recovering from his ordeal, Wannabe joins Kinji, who appears to be in a good mood. Kinji shares that he received praise for exterminating dungeon ants. Wannabe questions their deeper dungeon exploration, but Kinji emphasizes the company only provided them with a sheet of paper, leaving them with unclear directives. Contemplating the need for leadership, Kinji decides to establish an organization to take control of Raizaha Mining Corporation. Enthusiastically, he invites Wannabe to join the Dungeon Black Company, revealing Ants and Rim in her dragon form standing behind him. Kinji's team was gradually growing. During a meeting with senior officials, Miss Shia expressed her appreciation for her remarkable achievements. Meanwhile, Kinji persists in battling diverse monsters on his journey. The superiors inquired if Shia obtained the Philosopher's Stone at the Faria dungeon. Shia expresses her dedication by opting to undertake the task solo to alleviate the burden on her colleagues. Meanwhile, the seniors announce the arrival of a new batch of recruits joining the corporate training regime. Shia addresses the seniors, expressing her commitment to hard work and determination, vowing to continue contributing and aiming for success and higher ranks. Simultaneously, the trio secures promotions and commences work with Boss Pig at Pigpen Isle. Boss Pig mocks his workers, belittling them as if they are animals and trash, labeling them a bunch of losers. Initiating their training, he adopts a cruel approach, warning that failure to complete tasks will result in no food for the workers. Boss Pig notices Kinji's different approach to his words and confronts him, questioning if there's an attitude problem. Kinji responds with a shout, "Thank you, boss," and promptly leaves the situation. However, the message was clear. Kenji was different and not about to blend with the other workers. Continuing his derogatory remarks, Boss Pig berates his workers, who silently listen while diligently working. He commands them to increase their pace and work harder, emphasizing the need to accomplish their tasks swiftly. Boss Pig becomes furious as one worker shows fear confronting a three-headed wolf. The distressed worker pleads for his life, cries, and ends up wetting his pants. Boss Pig scorns him, stating that this individual can only charge into a fight. Simultaneously, Boss Pig employs magical powers to hypnotize the workers. Whenever he addressed the people, there were mages around who were busy hypnotizing the workers. Boss Pig was watching and waiting patiently to see them lose their personality. Just like he expected, they all started falling in line one after the other. Meanwhile, Kinji and Wannabe had stumbled on a plant messing people's minds. So before the magic would get to them, they took small portions of the plant. This helped them to be immune to the magical work of the mages. Once the Boss Pig releases them to resume their tasks, Kinji breaks free and slaps Wannabe, snapping him out of the hypnotic state. Now that they were both in the right state of mind, Kinji and Wannabe saw how stupid the other workers looked. They were all obsessed with the company in an odd way. Kinji and Wannabe encounter Miss Shia, who surprisingly turns out to be their supervisor. Miss Shia gained fame for creating the Philosopher's Stone on the 5th floor of the Dungeon of Faria. Unlike a typical lady, Shia was firm. A light touch from Shia sent Wannabe to the clinic. This is a big deal because Wannabe is naturally strong. Shia brings Kinji to the 3rd floor to assess his demon fighting skills. When the first monster comes around, it attacks Shia. Surprisingly, Shia doesn't waste any time in killing it. She brings out her sword and splits it into two. Shia beckons on Kinji to fight a monster so she can rate his ability. To everyone's surprise, Kinji declines to harm a dungeon. Recognizing his unexpected connection with the demons, Shia promptly decides to report the situation to higher authorities. Shia attacks Kinji and the ant, but Rim comes to the rescue. After defeating Shia, she was tied down and kept on the floor. At the same time, Wanibe arrives on the scene, carried to the back of a dungeon. He is shocked to find Shia being held hostage by Kinji. Wanibe is scared to death because he knew that they were in trouble. How can they fall into Shia's wrong book? On the other hand, Kinji wasn't moved. Before long, he reveals to Wanibe that he has a plan. Kinji brings Shia closer, and they all take a photograph with the monsters. This was going to be Kinji's alibi. By threatening to expose these photos, they coerce Shia into compliance, making her do whatever they instruct to prevent the revelation of the pictures. There was so much for her to lose if she reported them. Kinji knew that she would not want to take such risks. Facing a 1-month deadline to settle his burnt debt, Kinji embarks on a perilous journey. During this adventure, he discovers that the dungeon crawl Iroha is under Shay, and he anticipates receiving a reward from it. Later on, his anger flares when he observes the disappointingly low reward. In response, Kinji devises a strategy to pursue a one-shot reversal to turn the situation around. Returning to his Tokyo penthouse, Kinji switches on the TV, hoping it is just a bad dream. To his shock, Rimu has come along, causing chaos in the city as she searches for food. In a sudden turn, Rimu appears behind him, ready to strike, but he jolts awake once more. This time, he finds himself transported 300 years into the future. There, he discovers that the exploitative and oppressive practices of the Ryza Mining Corporation have spread globally, resulting in the downfall of the human race. Seizing the opportune moment, the Demon Lord conquers the world, relegating humans to second-class citizens. A prophecy foretells that Kinji will emerge from the past to rescue them from the horrors imposed by the Demon Lord and his allies. Initially hesitant about battling demons, Ninomiya dismisses the idea. However, Zazel, a fervent believer in the prophecy, contends that defeating the Demon Lord will open a portal to Tokyo. Faced with this revelation, Kinji promptly reconsiders his decision. In the quest for his prophesied arch-rival, Kinji, accompanied by the skilled magician and priestess Ranga, unintentionally arrives at General Ant's town. Captured and brought before the general, Kinji realizes with surprise that it is his old friend Meikyu Arie. During their time together, they delve into the working conditions of human beings. To Ninomiya's surprise, he discovers that the workers are well paid, but exhibit laziness and a reluctance to work. How true can this be? He assists his friend in creating an improved system, eventually becoming Deputy Assistant Section Chief in the Demon Lord Army and the director of the new Business Development Division. Will Kinji be able to use his political connections to gather information about the Demon Lord and his army? To succeed in the plan to confront the Demon Lord, Kinji needs sufficient knowledge. During a bath with Ranga and Rim, Kinji shares his desire to meet the Demon Lord, hoping they can aid his return to Japan. Unbeknownst to him, someone records a video of him discussing the removal of high-ranking members for the upcoming board meeting. A video like this can never amount to anything good for the victim, and Kinji's case was not different. Upon watching the video, Generals Rugini, Power Ash, and Zex Haller view Kinji as a threat. Power decides to attack Kinji and Rim using monster insects. Still, to her astonishment, Rim emerges victorious in defeating them. Without Rim, Kinji would have been in serious trouble. Who else could have withstood the attacks of Power Ash? Following that, Ru attempts to make Kinji work in a challenging wasteland to transform it into a farm. However, Kinji cleverly employs worms to cultivate the land effortlessly. Meanwhile, in an attempt to discover Kinji's secrets, Zeika stumbles upon Ranga's secret and attempts to blackmail her. Rim intervenes, interrupting his plans and sending him away. Ranga awakens in a different dimension, observing rabbits toiling as enslaved people for the queen and moles diligently working at an internet cafe. Kinji, taking the form of a mosquito, guides her to a cave. Out of nowhere, Queen Belza appears, disclosing that Ranga is her descendant. She extends an offer for Ranga to live a carefree life with her. Kinji attempts to persuade Ranga, but the real Kinji intervenes, awakening Ranga with a decisive headbutt. Ranga recalls that a giant robot emitted something, causing her to lose consciousness. However, Rim successfully vanquished the robot sent by the generals. Having triumphed over the robot, Kinji, Ranga, and Rim receive an invitation from the Demon Lord, revealed to be a gray-haired demon. Kinji was gradually becoming more popular. To everyone's astonishment, the Demon Lord urges Kinji to undertake the mission of saving the world. But Kinji has proven so far that he only cares for himself. Will he take up this mission to save the world? Following the Demon Lord's request for Kinji to save the world, she asserts that Rim is, in fact, her sister. Despite Rim's denial due to lack of memory, the Demon Lord summons Meijin, Rim's twin sister, as evidence to support her claim. The Demon Lord discloses that the Colonian civilization crafted magical powers and guardians, such as Rim, to regulate the magic flow within the dungeon. When Rim encountered Kinji and left her dungeon, the dungeon generated her as a replacement for Rim. Continuing her explanation, she reveals that after Kinji vanished, Raizaha established contact with the ruins. Utilizing the advanced technology of the Colonian city beneath, they mined to the bottom, seizing control and plotting to dominate the world. Once more, the Demon Lord implores Kinji to travel back in time, altering history to thwart Raizaha's evil actions. Despite being given the choice to return to Japan or embark on the mission, Kinji journeys back in time. Now, this is unlike Kinji. What must have caused him to change his mind? Upon his return, Kinji discovers that his debt has surged to 10 million gold due to his 1-month absence. Nonetheless, Wanibe and Shia express joy at his return. In a generous gesture, Shia offers to share her flat, prompting Kinji, Rim, and Ranga to move into her house. Subsequently, Kinji outlines his strategy to reach the ruins beneath the dungeon and access the Colonian city before Belza. He aims to thwart Raizaha's world domination scheme and alter the course of events. He emphasizes that their plan involves seizing control of the technology, utilizing superior science and ultimate firepower to establish the ultimate immortal dystopia. However, Wanibe discloses that starting from the 3rd floor, the dungeon has become considerably more challenging than before. No one had anticipated that such a thing would happen. The Demon Lord discloses that they are the guardians of the dungeons and the planet. Kinji questions Rim about the accuracy, and she admits she has yet to learn. The Demon Lord then shares the tale of eons ago, when the planet thrived with an advanced civilization at its peak of splendor. The Colonians harnessed magic power, controlling Earth, time, and space. Rim mentions that Kinji has experienced the Colonians' abilities, as they were responsible for sending him to this world and propelling him into the future. The Guardians were assigned to manage this world's magic power flow. Additionally, they were entrusted with guarding the treasures hidden in their dungeons from humans. Kinji recognizes a significant flaw in the dungeon, and the Demon Lord acknowledges his observation. Rim, the guardian of the dungeon, neglected her duties, spending time on the surface. This led to a disruption in the powers within the dungeon, resulting in the birth of a replacement, the Demon Lord. Kinji interrupts the story, posing a question to the Demon Lord about the possibility of being sent back to Japan. The Demon Lord affirms that it's possible, but suggests gathering everyone for a discussion before making a decision. She unveils the impending final war, warning that the planet will descend into a dystopia devoid of life if they are defeated. Subsequently, Kinji returns, reuniting with Shia and Wanibe. Kinji acquires an artifact capable of absorbing mana from the surroundings, converting it into energy. This leads to the episode being aptly titled, Weapon of Mass Hysteria. In the previous part of the episode, Kinji discovered he's the sole person without mana in this world, making him feel like the weakest. When it comes to strength, Kinji can pass as the weakest. Despite the disappointment, things took a surprising turn when a future-purchased gun got activated, effectively covering for his vulnerabilities. Opting to raid the dungeon, Kinji faced another letdown as he discovered the gun's truly clingy personality. Despite his initial decision to part ways with it, circumstances forced him to keep the gun ultimately. How will the gun aid Kinji in dominating the world? Kinji harbors genuinely unique and formidable assets. First, there was Rim, and now, a relentless firearm further enhances his arsenal. Anything was possible for Kinji. Let's remember that Raizaha holds the most powerful technologies, as confirmed in the previous episode. Knowing Kinji's determination, giving up on his plans won't be easy, making the upcoming story even more thrilling. Moreover, Ranga mentioned the gun is from her village, but we're yet to receive an explanation on how they acquired it. It is Colonian technology, suggesting it could play a crucial role in aiding Kinji significantly. Episode 8, Recap. despite the inherent risks of upper-floor dungeons. There was no stopping him. Teaming up with Wanibi, he embarks on training sessions under Shia's guidance to enhance his strength. During this, Shia recognizes that Kinji's strength lies in manipulating people rather than physical prowess. This has been very obvious from the beginning. During training, Kinji uncovers that inhabitants of this world can absorb natural mana, converting it into magic to enhance physical abilities. This revelation highlights his vulnerability, as he lacks this capability. The next day, Kinji contemplates surviving in a mana-driven world without this ability. While pondering, he observes Ranga playing with the gun he acquired upon being transported to the future. Retrieving it, he witnesses Rim attempting to consume it, only for the gun to absorb her mana. The gun activates and prompts for a password, which Kinji inadvertently guesses correctly. Realizing he holds a potent weapon capable of compensating for his physical limitations, Kinji resolves to raid the upper-ranked dungeon ahead of Belza. Within the dungeon, Kinji faces monster attacks, employing his gun to eliminate them. However, the extensive use quickly depletes the battery, prompting the gun to start absorbing mana from the surroundings. Before long, the gun starts siphoning energy from the magic fiber-woven clothes everyone wears, leaving them entirely exposed and embarrassed. Upon Shia's scolding and accusations of intentional mischief, Kinji resolves to part ways with the gun. Much to his dismay, he discovers the gun is unwilling to be abandoned and possesses a clingy, girlfriend-like personality. Kinji attempts to intimidate by threatening to sell the gun at a pawn shop, but it responds by tightly binding itself around him, issuing a self-destruction threat. With no alternative, Kinji finds himself compelled to keep the gun. Kinji and his crew began their quest against Raiza, starting from the adventure fort. Kinji couldn't help but notice the unusual silence as they approached the gate, making him pause for a moment. The team had anticipated guards at the doors, but Kinji's friends suggested the possibility of the place being haunted due to numerous mysterious deaths. Shortly after, a pack of zombies launched an unexpected attack on the team. Amidst the battle, Wanibi noticed Kinji's absence. Using her heightened sense of smell, Rim traced Kinji's scent and discovered him at the dungeon gate, where he had been abducted by one of the mages. The mage disclosed his desire to inflict the same suffering he experienced onto all humans. Surprisingly, the team assisted the mage in establishing a potion store in town to fulfill her lifelong dream. However, the episode concludes with the store being raided, and Kinji conveys that it's the way of the system unchangeable. The team pressed on with their mission in the dungeon. Until now, Kinji and his crew safely reached the 5th floor without any losses. Yet, the challenges beyond the 5th level are truly unimaginable. As the team approached the gate, the floor started shaking intensely. Kinji quickly grasped that Raiza had conjured a powerful earthquake to hinder their progress on the quest. Eventually, the team became separated as the floor split in two. Kinji found himself with half the team on one side while Shia remained on the other, with the little girl seeking assistance. Separated on opposite sides, Kinji urgently proposed building a base to regroup. The episode concluded with Shia and Sky heading toward the specified base point that Kinji had mentioned. Kinji and his crew came across the Belzegard team members and, deeming them allies, Kinji chose to place trust in Captain Ars. Unfortunately, their reunion was short-lived, as another attack swiftly struck the team. Amidst the frenzied attacks, Kinji heroically rescued Ars from the collapsing ceiling. This act earned Kinji the captain's trust. Subsequently, the Guardian intervened to halt the chaotic conflict. Despite this, Kinji mustered the courage to push Ars out of harm's way. A gripping battle ensued between the Guardian and Kinji. The valiant warrior declared that the well-being of his friends outweighed his own life. Consequently, he directed the entire crew to the sidelines, engaging the Guardian in a solo confrontation. The outcome of this pivotal battle remains undisclosed. Whether Kinji emerges victorious or not, he has demonstrated a capacity to prioritize others over himself. Make You Black Company has significantly developed his character arc. Kinji faced arrest for a past crime before his wealth. Belza, manipulating Shia, convinced her to testify against him. Kinji, seen as a potential threat, endured torture to extract information and a confession, but he resisted. Realizing she was manipulated, Shia went to Kinji and healed his wounds. The Ant Queen recalled that Kinji had written a manual for such emergencies. A month later, Belza became Raizaha's director, only to be shocked on fifth night he had an attitude to discover Kinji's release and, to make matters worse, his appointment as the CEO. Wanibe revealed that by following Kinji's manual, they acquired 40% of Raizaha's stocks, and convinced the owners to contribute an additional 15% for support. Consequently, they now hold the majority of Raizaha's stocks, leading to its absorption into Kinji's company. Belza now works under Kinji, and with Ranga, they focus on improving their family relationship. Despite Kinji's victory, he remained unhappy, causing concern for Ranga. Ranga then disclosed that Kinji is originally from Japan and has a plan to return there. Kinji confirmed that achieving goals and winning make him happier. Rather than returning to life in Japan, he plans to expand the company by taking over dungeons until he controls it worldwide. While Kinji was fixed on becoming extremely rich, his life in Japan involved a laid-back existence without work. He's determined to persevere in this new endeavor and aims to take over all the dungeons worldwide. In the next season, Kinji will embark on new adventures in the dungeon world. His goal? Conquer the whole world before returning home. Get ready to witness Kinji in action again in the Dungeon of Black Company Season 2. How sure are we that there will be any Season 2? The inaugural season of the Dungeon of Black Company premiered on July 9th, 2021, concluding with its 12th episode on September 24th, 2021. This anime series garnered a favorable online rating and received numerous positive reviews from most viewers. It resonated with fans, and many eagerly anticipate a second season. The big question now is, will there be the Dungeon of Black Company Season 2 to meet the expectations of its dedicated fanbase? There has been no official announcement from the author or the studio regarding the future of the Dungeon of Black Company. Despite the silence, fans can hold on to hope for a potential new season, as updates may come in the future. The possibility of a new season largely hinges on the source material. With the current anime covering 29 out of 37 ongoing manga chapters, there's ample content for a second season.